Hello and welcome to BusyWorksBeats.com. Today we continue our FL Studio series right here at premium.busyworksbeats.com. Today I'm going to guide you through your first trap track. I know how it feels to open up a new DAW and not have the workflow down. So now you have to look up stuff on the internet every single step of the way and it just becomes tedious. I'm going to show you my actual workflow in FL Studio 21 and how you can use it as well. If you don't know me, I'm Game from BusyWorksBeats.com. We've trained over 900,000 producers around the world. Some have gone to work with Drake, Kanye West, Post Malone, J. Cole, Trippie Redd, Polo G, Young Thug, YG, French Montana, Ray Shremmerd, Ariana Grande, if I didn't already say that, Post Malone. I'm starting to forget all the names. A lot of cool folks. So let's hop into the DAW and show you how to do all this stuff. So we're going to be making a trap beat today. And let me double check my cam. Okay, we're good to go. You will get these project files for free. Just go to busyworksbeats.com/FL Studio. So the first thing is sound selection. Actually, the first thing is tempo. If you want like a Young Thug style trap beat, we're going to go like 120 to about 130. If you're looking at Metro Boomin style, you're going to go 130 to about 140-ish, in the 120s maybe. If you're doing like Meek Mill, you're doing like 160, 180, very high tempo. If you're doing Lil Baby, you're doing like 140, 144-ish. Drill is 144. So that gives you a range of like different artists and how fast you want to go. Newer school stuff that's a little more upbeat is like 150 plus, like Rage stuff. Let's start somewhere around 132. Let's just start there. I'm hitting the space bar to, hear the sound. And also this is called the metronome. I have that turned on as well. Okay, so now that we have the BPM, we're going to pick some sounds. So I would highly recommend the Lunch 77 drum kits. This man figured out every single sound that all your top producers and top artists use. It's crazy. Today, let's do like a Travis Scott style track. Today, let's do Travis Scott. And let's go to, now the character of a beat is usually by its snare. So let's go to snares first, or clap. Okay, so we're making some trap. So it depends on what style trap you're talking about. But let's see what we have here. This is like the, let's right click, open this snare up. So this snare is now in what's called the channel rack. This is where all your sounds are stored for the track that you're using. Okay, you can delete any blank samplers in there. So now we have the snare. Okay, we can always go back and pick other snares. I'm gonna right click, open that as like a bouncy snare. So we have a hard snare like, and then we have a bouncy snare, tap, 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 if we ever have to bounce. Okay, we need closed hi-hat, which is the sound. Okay, we're just gonna right click, open that up. And we need, right now we're gonna pick an 808, but we have to debate if we need a kick or an 808. So sometimes you can stack kicks and 808, sometimes you just have one kick, sometimes you have an 808. There's no right or wrong answer. But we're gonna go based off of the vibe. So I think that snare needs an 808. So let's start with the 808s. And we're gonna use the butterfly effect one, which is the spins 808. Right click, open that up, a new channel. Okay. So now we have all the 808s, all the sounds that we need. I'm going to show you how to quickly draw drums. Now, before we get to drums, though, you want to make sure you have some kind of musical foundation. There's no right or wrong way to do any of this, by the way. Okay, I'm just showing you different ways. So let's open up some kind of synth. Now, let's open up Flex, because a lot of folks are starting to use Flex for sounds now. And let's go to General MIDI Library and start with kind of like basic sounds. We're looking for like a crystal or some kind of bell type sound. That's a little heavy. Let's see what else they have in here. That's super heavy. Let's see what else we can find. I'm going to pause the video. Actually, here it is. Glockenspiel. Spiel. We're going to swap out the sound to find something cooler. Okay, let's turn this down a little bit. Go to your playlist, which is this icon right here. We're going to grab pattern 1 and drag it into the playlist. I highly recommend you change your snap to grid to bar mode. It's just easier to see the playlist this way. Go to song mode right here and then left click and just drag this out for like 8 bars, let's say. Okay. Now I keep my metronome on as I'm doing this and I'm hitting the space bar. Okay. Now you can double click inside of here and add notes. Okay. So now let's talk about keys and different scales. So I like to do it this way. There's other ways to do the same thing, but I would highly recommend you do it this way for many reasons. We're going to click on the stamp tool. We're going to go down to the scale. So we're going to write in Phrygian mode, which is a mode. Okay, so it says other Phrygian. We're going to click that. Now, Phrygian's root note in the C major scale is usually E. You don't need to start at E. You could be anywhere. But to keep it simple, we're just going to make it E so that it's all the white notes. We can transpose the key later. You don't need to memorize anything I just said. Just turn down the velocity at the bottom. If you don't see this, there's an, pardon me. If you don't see the ellipses, look for the bottom here, and it's going to be in the middle. Just left click, drag that up. Okay, now that we have the scale mapped out, we need to hit Alt G to ungroup these notes. I'm going to add another additional E in here. Hit Control to highlight all these notes. Hit Shift, left click, and drag it so that the top and bottom note are E. So now we have the Phrygian scale mapped out across a couple octaves. Okay. Now I'm going to move this to the right, to somewhere over here, out of the way, as a reference. Okay. So again, this is a mode that's very common for Travis Scott, Phrygian mode. Okay. So I'm going to show you something a little more advanced, but to give you something that's cool too. It's not just a major or minor scale. Let's add a note, hit Alt, left click to restore the velocity. And the key is the half step. So we're going to go dun, dun. We're going to swap out the sound. This sounds a little not full. But let's start with the piano, actually. This is probably the best place to start. Okay, so it's super basic, 2 notes, boom, boom, but it's the timing. So that's why I said turn the metronome on. I have my snap to grid on 1/2 beat. Okay, so a lot of people try to complicate trap melodies, and that's why they don't get the sound they're looking for. Okay, now let's start adding drums. Let's click on the channel rack icon, go to pattern 2. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you is how to write out your hi-hats. Click somewhere just arbitrarily over here, doesn't matter where, and then right click, fill each 2 steps. Okay, now we can go back to song mode, go to your patterns on the top left click and drag this in. Okay, so now it maps out for 4 bars. I'm going to hit Control to highlight, hit Shift, left click and drag. So now we have 16 bars, but since we're at a high BPM, it's really 8 bars. You don't need to memorize that either. Okay, now let's add the snare in here. The snare is going to go in the 3 and the 7 count. So turn your metronome on. So it's every time the metronome hits, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so it goes on the 3 and the 7 when you're at BPMs above 120. If you're going for a trap sound. Let's turn our hi-hats back on. Okay, so I'm going to add a couple bounce snares in here. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So now I'm going to draw in the 808. Don't worry about notes just yet. I was on boom, boom. Okay, boom, boom. This is a boom, 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 boom. 2, 3, 4, boom, 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 boom. Okay, so just get used to that rhythm. You don't need to copy it every song, but okay, so now we have basic rhythm. We can go back to the piano and make it a little bit darker. Let's double click, hit Control down to pull everything down. So I pull it down. Now the thing is, we don't need the piano to last that long. So let's hit Control, highlight these notes, and left click the edge to draw it as a shorter note. You can hit Control Shift to highlight multiple notes. Don't worry about the 808 being out of key. Just get the rhythm right. Okay, so now we need some kind of, we don't need music behind the beat because there's beats with just those elements. But let's start adding some musical stuff behind the track. Let's open up Flex one more time. And what I'm going to do is copy our pattern 1, hit Control, go to pattern 1, hit Control C, go to a new pattern, hit Control V, paste it into your new Flex, because it has all the scale stuff on the right side. So now I'm going to make it more musical. I'm going to show you a couple things you could do. There's no right or wrong way to write melodies. There's many ways to do it. If you want to learn more, just go to premium.busyworksbeats.com. We have free courses on how to make Drake melodies, etc., etc. In this case, we're going to change our snap to grid to 1/3 beat so that we have triplets. And let's swap out the sound. Let's go general MIDI. Again, I don't know all their packs, so I'm just going through to find a basic sound. Let me see here. Let's try this sound. Okay. So again, you can always swap the sound out. I'm going to show you a couple techniques. Now let's go back to the playlist, left click and drag pattern 3 inside the playlist. Now drag the edge so it's shorter. Let's go double click, go inside of pattern 3. Let's hit control up twice to pull this up 2 octaves. Now there's no right or wrong way to do melody. There's a couple theories, but we're not going to get into everything about theory right now. Now since I started, let's make this easy. Because we're in triplet notes, it gives it a different bounce. So I'm going to start at the bottom of the scale, and I'm just going to work up the scale note by note. Let's do it by. My ear wants to hear. Dun, dun. Okay, so we want to go dun 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 dun. We don't want to repeat it and make it go dun 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 1,000 times. We want it to switch up. Better dum dum. So I just want a little change up. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 2. We're probably gonna change these notes. That's what my ear's hearing. Okay, so let's see if they have some kind of guitar in here, maybe. Let me pause the video. All right, so in Flex, I found a flute sound. It's under the general MIDI sounds. Just scroll down until you see flute. Okay, so I pulled this up. I'm going to pull this up 1 octave, hit control up. So I don't want this to repeat the entire time. So I'm going to create like a background, some kind of tickling to the ear type thing. Let's go to a new pattern, and I need to make sure we copy and paste from pattern 1 because we have that scale reference. Hit control C, go to a new pattern, hit control V to paste. Now here I just want a background texture. It's not a melody, it's just something in the background to keep our ear engaged. Okay, so I'm gonna hit control up a couple times until we're in the higher octaves of the piano. And I'm gonna make sure that I'm adding this as I'm listening to the beat so that it has context. So let's add pattern 4. It's blank right now, but let's add that in. Hit control B to latch paste. Okay, now let's add like tickle stuff in the background. Let's go control up. I'm gonna highlight this note, hit control down. So that's what I hear in my head, but I want more tickle motions. So you can go snap to grid, change it to 1/3 beat. I wouldn't recommend it because that may trick the ear because we have the flute in triplet mode. We don't want it to confuse. We don't want to confuse the listener, but let's just try triplets just to see. It might be a little too much. Okay, so I'm going to hit shift, copy these. Probably just want the same notes here. Shift down makes you move notes up and down. Shift up or down. So, so that should be A. Then these should be a different note. C. My ear wants to hear that. This is a fifth. You don't need to know any of this music theory. Okay, so we're just adding bounce. That's the main thing about this sound. Now what I'm going to do here is right click and clone the sound because I want it to be different than our first piano because we're going to add different effects to it. Now let's hit Control X, Control V to paste into the new piano. Now that we have the majority of our sounds, let's double click. Make sure we go to all just in case you have audio, but double click, hit Control L to send all these sounds to what's called the mixer. This is where we can add effects. So for this piano, that ding, ding, the very fast piano, let's click. Now, if you don't see this on the right side, you want to make sure you have the show inspector here. And we're going to click on the piano, go to slot 1, and we're going to add gross beat. Let me make sure you guys can see my screen. That'd be crazy if you were just, okay. Let's go to presets, momentary. Let's go to half speed. So now we're slowing down that piano. Let's go to trigger sync, 4 beats, post sync, 4 beats. Just turn this piano down. Okay, now we can go back to the 808 and change out the notes. So let's go inside our pattern 2, right click the 808, go to piano roll. It will show the notes here. Let's hit Control up so we can see the notes. Let's hit Shift down. Let's highlight these notes, hit Control, highlight, hit Shift up 1. To Control down to pull this back down. You could change up the notes as much as you want. I'm just going to keep it basic. Let me show you how to do hi-hat rolls. Now, I think hi-hat rolls can get overused a lot, but let's right click, go to piano roll. So wherever you want a hi-hat roll, let's change our snap to grid to 1/2 beat. 1, 2, brr. Okay, so wherever you want the hi-hat roll, make sure you mark that hi-hat. Just hit Control, highlight. 1, 2, roll. Okay, now let's hit Control L to elongate the note. Hit Alt U to chop the note. Now, if that's not a long enough roll, you want to elongate the next note. Do the same thing, Alt U. Okay, so now you have a different vibe. Let's go to our flute. Let's pull it up 1 octave. Control up. I'm gonna do one more thing for this flute. Turn on monophonic mode under the settings. So now it pitch glides. Okay, so let's go back to the piano. Let's turn the gross beat down about 50%. Everything's trying to be loud. So the first thing we need to do is turn up your headphones, and then we're going to go to all our sounds and start turning stuff down. So I'm going to turn up my headphones. Okay, so the 808 notes can be debated as to which note you want to use. Let's pull this up an octave. So I'm going to quickly change these 808 notes. You will get the project file, so don't worry about this. Take Control down. See See how the 808 doesn't have a lot of impact? That's why a lot of people stack kicks and 808s. I like to stack kicks and 808s, but the stock plugins won't allow you to mix them too well together without a lot of compromise. So I'm not going to show you that technique in this video. But if you want to learn it, go to premium.busyworksbeats.com. Let's say you want to shorten the 808. Let's grab the 808. You could fade it out, so it's not as long. Feels more like a kick. I don't want to get too deep into reverb and a lot of effects, but let's go to our mixer icon, which is right here. And let's find a blank track. I'm going to set this up for you. Just rename it reverb. Just right click R. And then let's load up Fruity Reverb 2. Where are we at here? Fruity Reverb 2. Let's turn the wet level up to 100%. In the top left, it gives you the value. Turn the dry level down. We're going to cut out the lows here. And I'm going to send sounds to the reverb. So I'm going to click on the flute and left click and then move the knob down to send that flute to the reverb. Let's see if we can get this piano to sound more harsh. You don't need to do this. I'm going to do it for you. It's going to add a compressor to our piano. See if we can get it to sound more bitey. Now, because we have so many low frequency things, we need to make sure they're not clashing. So here's where you would really manage that low end. Just added a parametric EQ to that lower piano. Really debating adding a kick, so let's see if a kick will fit in. I like this kick. Let's right click, open that up. Now I'm going to show you the simple way to do it, but there's a more complex way to sidechain your kick to your 808. You don't need to do this for every beat. Let's actually make sure we just add the kick underneath the 808. So I'm just, wherever the 808 hits, I'm adding a kick. Okay, so you would go to your pattern mode in the channel rack to make sure they line up. See how it just adds more fullness? Now for this track, we don't need to I don't even know how I just did what I just did, but for this track, we don't need to like do complex side chaining for the kick. I might change out the snare. Let's see what other snares we have. I like the snare a little bit more. Let's hit Control L. Hit Control X, Control V to paste. Yeah, I like the snare better, it just fits. Okay, so I'm gonna add a Fruity Soft Clipper. I'm not trying to mix this entire track right now. Let's add a Fruity Soft Clipper. Turn the threshold up. Catch those transients. But the kick and the 808 are technically overlapping a little bit, but they're fine. Now, if you want more distortion from your 808, there's a lot of plugins you could use. My favorite is the Culture Vulture from Universal Audio, but if you had to use stock stuff, there's Fruity, where is it? It's Fruity Wave Shaper. Where is it at? Fruity Wave Shaper's a way to add harmonics. Let's pull the mix level back. Just left click and drag this. So now it knocks a little bit harder for this beat, I mean. Okay, so the hi-hats need to be a little louder. Maybe a different hi-hat sample. Let's try a different sample. Now, rarely do I ever drag samples over, so you gotta be careful doing that. Maybe this one. This one's just more full of the sound. There we go. Now the beat feels more full. So now this is about leveling. The kick is way too loud in the 808. We need to turn these down. So I can't, sit here and mix the entire track. It'll take 2 hours. You could add some open hi-hats in here. Okay, so right click, open that up. So think of an open hi-hat like a hi-hat roll. It's just, where would you add a hi-hat roll? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Let's turn it down. Okay, let's go to the hi-hats, go to your wrench tool, turn up time shift. This will open up the drums a little bit, make them sound less quantized and computerized. So of course we could turn stuff up. Now, if you want to trapify everything, you could also run your flute through gross beat. To do this, we're just going to click the drop down. We're going to save preset as, left click. Now, sometimes it works on Mac. It's been finicky lately. Left click and just drag it over to your flute. And that adds that slowed down melody sound. Let's get rid of the piano. The dark piano. Let's just arrange this a little bit. So again, you got to imagine this with vocals. I might change up the 808 pattern. Okay, so you can mess with the kicks and the 808s. Add some double kicks. Let's see if we do full gross beat on the piano. Might be a little too dark. We need those high frequencies. So I'm going to EQ the bass a little bit. So again, the kick and the 808 are not perfectly blended. Okay, so with vocals, mixing and mastering, you could take this a lot further. That's the beat making process. Just wanted to give you a glimpse into different ways you could make beats over time. Again, this is a beginner's video, so over time I'll show you more complex stuff to get a more polished industry type sound. So I want to thank you for watching, and if you're new here, I need you to subscribe so that you can add more oxygen to my lungs with the like button. If you want free courses, go to premium.busyworksbeats.com. If you want these project files for free, just go to busyworksbeats.com/FL Studio. Thanks for watching. It's Game from busyworksbeats.com.